So today, Milano and I competed in our first dressage competition. We decided to do prelim 15 and novice 23. I chose to do the 20 by 60 arenas because I had more space and I prefer this arena. Here you can see we're just preparing to come down the centre line. She's in a really nice frame. She's forward going. In my position, I'm focusing on sitting up tall, looking ahead, thinking about my turn down the centre line. For this test, my enter in working trot and proceed down the centre line, I scored an 8. And the judges commented that I had a positive entry and a nicely forward rhythm. Here I'm performing a 20-metre circle to the left and I scored a 7.5 for this. The judge would prefer a little bit more bend to the inside and I would agree with this. However, here she is quite balanced, she's forward and consistent in her frame. Now we're going to turn left at E and then right at B. We scored a 6.5 for this, which is a little bit disappointing, but there just before the walk and then the trot transition again, you can see she was a little bit resistant. And the judges have commented saying she was a bit hollow, which I would agree with. I just needed to keep my leg on a little bit more to make this better. Here, once again, for the 20-metre circle, we scored a 7.5, which I'm very pleased with. The judge, once again, would like a little bit more bend. Her canter transition was really forward, was a lot better than I was expecting, considering in the warm-up she wasn't off my leg at all. We scored a 7 for our canter, just because she needed to be a little bit straighter. For the circle, we scored a 7.5, which I was very pleased with. And the change the rein, we scored a 7. Counter canter and coming across the school like that for Milano is something she finds really hard. So we've been working on that. And I was really pleased with the downwards transition. And then I was really pleased with the upwards transition to canter. She seems a lot more balanced here than in previous weeks. For this circle, we scored a 7.5, so the same as the canter right. This is showing that she's quite even on both reins. Here you can see she's really consistent in the frame again. She is slightly hollow at times, however she's staying quite relaxed and I think that will come with more schooling. Here you can see she's resistant again and just spooking in that top left corner. That's a corner she struggles with. Since she was a youngster, she's always spooked in that corner. We scored a 6 for that downwards transition as she hollowed in the trot. However, I had to make the transition happen at A to prevent from scoring no points for that. So we can work on that and just work on the relaxation in the downwards transition. For the half 20-metre circle right, we scored a 6.5. She just needed to stretch down a little bit more here. You can see at times she does. So that's something we can work on on the free walk on a long rein. Here I'm picking her back up again for the medium walk and then working trot at F here, which was a nice transition, turning down the centre line. For this centre line, we also scored an 8, which I'm really proud of. I think Milano and I have been working on our straightness, which is one of the scales of training, and she's really improved in that area. You can see here the halt is not the best. I think that's something we definitely need to work on. I was a bit disappointed that she wasn't square in her halt, so we scored a 6.5 and the judge commented she was distracted. However, I feel this was because it was in a dressage test. I think normally she wouldn't have had that problem. And here you can see she's spooking as we leave the school. And we won that class with 72.2%. Here we are doing our first ever novice test. This is Milano's first ever novice test. Coming down the centre line, we scored a 7.5, which is slightly less than our last test. However, for a novice, there are slightly higher expectations and a bit more consistency needed, and I feel that a 7.5 was expected. Here for our medium trot, you can see she is rushing and she's actually becoming a bit shorter and choppier in her strides, so we only scored a 5.5 for our medium trot. This is something we're working towards, and the judge commented there was a difference in the trot. It just was actually shortening rather than lengthening and just becoming quicker, so she was rushing. For our circle right, we scored a 7, which I'm pleased with, especially for a 15-metre circle. It's a smaller circle, so she finds it harder. And here once again showing some medium trot strides. We scored a 6 rather than a 5.5 here, which I was pleased with. And the judge commented that there were better steps, we just need to cover more ground. So this is something we'll be working on for our next dressage test. Here we're circling left 15 metres and we scored a 7. That was a nice forward canter transition where we also scored a 7. Between E and F here we scored a 7. We were just a little bit on our shoulders, the judges commented, so a little bit too downhill. So with a bit more shoulder in and lateral work we can improve this. Some of our medium canter strides we scored a 7. So we just could have had a bit of a higher step in our canter, in our medium canter. Here you can see we do increase the speed, but we don't increase the height of the canter strides. And she doesn't cover much more ground. Here we're walking where we scored a 6.5 in our medium walk. They're looking for fluency, balance, contact, regularity, relaxation and freedom. And for our free walk on a long rein we scored a 7, which is an improvement by 0.5 on our last test. So I'm more pleased with that. I think she found it easier to relax in this straight line across the school rather than on a circle. Now for our medium walk where I've collected her up again, we've got a 6.5, where the judge just wanted us to relax her neck further. For our canter transition we scored a 7, which I was pleased with. Her canter did feel really good today. I think she was just a little bit tired here, which is why she's on the forehand a bit more than usual. After giving and retaking with my reins, we also scored a 7. And here you can see she's very consistent in the frame. She's looking very nice. And for the medium canter strides, the judge said we were bold, but we did trot before A. This is because I slightly forgot the test and I was thinking about the transition too early. So it was my fault rather than Milano's. So we only scored a 6.5 for that. However, a 6.5 is still a good result for a transition when we did it wrong. Allowing Milano to stretch, we scored a 7, which I was really pleased with, showing she's relaxing at the end of the test. Back down the centre line, we scored a 7. So this is less than our last dressage test where we scored an 8. But I think this is just because it's a more difficult test. And here the halt is a lot more square than previously, and we scored a 7 for this, so I'm really pleased. Here you can see our final scores on Horse Monkey, so we scored 72.2%. This was first place, and here you can see the second place was 69%, so I think a 3% difference between first and second place was really good. In our Novice 23, we actually came second, so first place here scored 71.25%. And we scored 68.54%, which I was still really proud of, still second place, and I think for a green horse this was really good.